in. And I think, for us, me coming back from Mexico and being like, I feel stifled by this relationship, And another thing that my partner said, which I also really love about him, is he was like, I never want you to stay in this relationship if it's going to make you less of who you are. If you cannot fully be yourself here, then you do need to go somewhere else, because I love you that much. I do not want you to stay here and be bitter. And those are also words that I needed to hear. I will try to be expansive and I will try to accept the person that you are. But if you feel like you have to pare yourself down, mute yourself, turn the volume down a notch to be in a relationship with me, then this is obviously not the relationship you need to be in.
Hello and welcome back, everyone, to the Expression of Love podcast. It is your host, Sol Xprsn, and this is episode 4. That's right, it's episode 4. Very, very, very glad that you're sticking with us. Thank you so much. Like and subscribe if you have not already. And today, in today's episode, I had the distinct pleasure of talking with Crista Carter, a published author, yoga instructor, avid reader, and poet are just a few words that can be used to associate with this California native, Crista Carter. At her core, she is a writer and creative catalyst. She has authored a collection of poetry titled Take What You Need, Leave the Rest. She is the creator and founder of the Wanderland Collective, spelled with an A, which is a monthly workshop that was created to provide accountability and encouragement to emerging artists. Me and Crista talk about non-monogamous relationship structures, jealousy, adjusting to your partner's needs in a way that is loving, and what it means to explore love in non-traditional ways. We also talk about the basic human story in a bunch of different ways and some of what really lights the fire of inspiration in Crista for what she does and what she loves to read and things like that. So hopefully you guys really enjoy. Check it out. 2, 1. Hello and welcome again, everyone, to the Expression of Love podcast. I am your host, Sol Xprsn, and I am here with the illustrious, very esteemed guest, my very good friend, Crista, that I met in Atlanta years ago in like 2012, so like 10 years ago, something like that, maybe 2013. And it's going to be a great conversation. She's actually coming here with, and I like have a topic in mind. Usually I don't, but we're also just going to be just hanging out, just two really great people hanging out together, and we're going to have a great conversation. Crista.
Hi, Sol.
Hello, Crista. Oh man.
Gosh,
Big hugs.
I know. Hold on.
Big hugs, the biggest of hugs. How are things?
Man, just we're living, we're making it. I'm here. No, all seriousness though, things are pretty freaking good.
That's wonderful.
But so good to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, thank you for coming. The pleasure's all mine. So you're really, really cool. I don't remember any specific lyrics, but I do remember how your poetry used to make me feel on Thursday open mic nights when you came by all the way from your school to ours and participated and showed us your stuff, basically. Since then, since listening to your poetry back then, I definitely got the feeling that you don't only look at things that matter like love from a surface level. Meaning, to me, it doesn't seem that you just take somebody else's definition as your own, that you have to come up with your own conclusions and be your own sort of person. And so right here from the jump, I'd love if you could open us up with just some of who you are. Both, you can talk about occupational, that would be practical, but also like who you are, in however it comes to you.
Yeah. No, definitely am not talking about what I actually do to survive. Boo, boring. But who I am a poet, a wanderer, a lover. And so, of course, I'm always trying to enter into any spaces or any conversations around love. You saying that my poems, you don't remember the lyrics, but you remember the feeling means the world to me, because that's literally it, right? As a poet, I seek to evoke emotion, and to bring things up or to impart things into folks. And so, also a healer. I'm a yoga instructor. I am a partner to a wonderful person. And I'm really trying to own this. I've started thinking about it, but I am starting to see myself as a creative catalyst for other folks. So recently, in the last year or so, I have created a collective for creatives, and I just really work to help folks see what I see in them and push them and get them on the right track to creating their art. It's amazing to me how many talented people we have out here in this world who don't let their art be seen because of insecurities or fear, or they just think, it's a goal that's unattainable and it's just so many steps. And so I'm really working to become a person and a resource to folks and creative people to make sure that, at least at one point in their lifetime, they try to do it. And then I'm also, I'm a poet, but I'm also a published author. So I do have a book that, called Take What You Need and Leave the Rest. And so I released a second edition of that last year. And so that also has been a phenomenal experience, writing about grief and death and love and all of those things. But it's actually very interesting to me. I always describe myself as a bummer poet because I write about dark stuff. That's my niche. That's what I go to. It's really, that is my creative catalyst, or has been my creative catalyst. But I'm actually walking into a season of love. And I've been writing a lot more love poems recently. And so I just thought, it was really interesting that you are creating this podcast and that you invited me here. And I'm really working in the spirit of invitation in my life right now. And so I was just like, oh, love. Yeah.
Aren't we all right now?
Yeah.
I mean, who knows what to do the next day, the next month, the next year right now? Everybody's just yeah, oh, you invited me this? Okay, I'm going to do that because I have no idea what I'm doing over here by myself.
Not actually propelling myself anywhere right now. I'm just trying to exist. But also trying to be present. I think that I am definitely a control freak and have been, someone who has had to plan my life out for most of my life. And that was necessary. That was a survival skill that I had to have. But I'm entering into a phase of my life right now. I'm calling my freedom phase, where I'm just being, and not trying to create and make things happen as much as I allow myself to jump in when I see a need or when I see a spot for me, and allowing things to kind of flow towards me that need my gifts. As opposed to inserting myself, which we all know I'm very good at because I spent a lot of time at Morehouse with the Illit.
Shout out.
Shout out Illit.
Man, and my sister agreed to come on the show too, Keisha.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, she'll be here one of these episodes. I can't wait for that. I mean, you talking about a thinker.
I don't know if I've met a mind like that since.
I definitely have not. Yeah,
that was my favorite thing about her. I was just like, your mind is doing a lot of things.
And she almost makes it look easy, even though we know it ain't.
So natural. She's just a wealth of information. It's just how do you contain all of that info in your head and then be able to manipulate it in a way, communicate that back to people? That's a gift. It's a talent that someone has, and in the long-term memory of it, right? I can learn something, but if I'm not utilizing it immediately, I'm going to forget it.
I'm in that boat with you, watching Keisha's boat, just, with her curtains and things, and we're just kind of in this wooden. No. I'm just kidding. We have our gifts. We have our gifts.
We all have our gifts, and
Yeah.
it's just a beautiful thing to be able to interact with people and to have people as family. To have made connections with so many brilliant thinkers through the course of my life. I think it's one of the things I talk about the most are the people that I've come in contact with and the people I know. I'm like, I have come in contact with people who are definitely going to be talked about when we're gone. And that's amazing.
Absolutely. And in one of the talks that I recently had, we talked about. I'm trying to think of exactly how to put it so that it flows nicely. You mentioned allowing yourself to attract and be attracted to and by whatever needs your talents, and that speaks to me in the way that talks about like your personal responsibility and being responsible with your talents, right? Like a lot of people, when you're like a teenager and you first discover that you have certain natural talents, whether you're really good with your little siblings, you're like really good with kids, or you're a natural leader, or you're a natural innovator or inventor, or you have these talents, right? Or you're creative, poet, singer, whatever, dancer, and your parents, or if you have any good adults around you, they'll tell you immediately, oh, there's some responsibility that comes with these talents. You're going to have to use it, especially if you grow up in the church. They're going to tell you, you're going to have to use these talents for some good purpose. And when you first receive that message, it's like, man, get out of here, man. What are you talking about? First of all, thank you. Second of all, get out of here. Get all the way out of here with this responsibility talk. But no, that's actually completely valid and wise, even, and should be heeded. Advice that should be heeded.
I mean, I received that message differently. I grew up. I definitely grew up in the church, and I was raised by my grandmother, who was constantly telling me, you are a gift from God, and I had a dream that God spoke to me, and you're gonna do this, and you're gonna do great things, and I internalized that in a way that made me such an overachiever and such a perfectionist that I really couldn't be a kid, like I couldn't, I've always had a fear of failure. It was like this insurmountable responsibility to impact the world and be a change agent and like be great. And so I had to do, and so I'm finding all of these, these systems, and I'm like, well, this person's a leader and they did XYZ. So I need to do XYZ to be as great of a leader as they are. And luckily for me, I am also too a thinker. And so I whoever gave me my critical thinking skills, whatever ancestor gave me my rebellious spirit, I thank them forever. Because I also too never always took everything at someone's word. I didn't have a hard time, following order or like seeing things, but I had to look at what you were saying and it had to make sense to me. If things didn't make sense to me, I was like, well, that's dumb. That's dumb. And I'm not going to do that. And as a kid, I was there. It would happen to me all the time where I'd be like, I hear you and I'm listening to you, but that does not feel right to me. And that does not sit right with me. Respectfully, I'm going to decline.
Yeah.
I'm going to decline that path or that route.
Yeah.
And so it took me a really long time to really break away from that. And I ended up getting activist burnout in grad school. We were, right on the, I was in grad school when Mike Brown was murdered. And I was very involved, politically engaged there with my schoolwork and with my coursework, was very centralized there. And, I'm going to the protests and I'm trying to do all these things and trying to get the word out. And I had been politically involved since high school. I've always worked in community organizing. I've always just been trying to change things for the better and do all this. And I got to this point where, of course, I had a lot of other things happening in my life. And I just got tired. And after I graduated grad school and I got my master's in public policy, I shut down.
Oh,
I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to have a political discussion. I didn't want to look at anything political. I did not want to engage. And I just went completely insular. And there was so much, I got so much flack from people who I'd been working with and things like that, like, how can you stop? How can you not be engaged here? You have a responsibility. You have to do it. And I was like, I'm dying. How am I going to continue to do this? I don't want to sacrifice myself to do this. I was not working in a sustainable way. And so I'm really just coming out of a 6 to 7 year tuck away where I'm finally kind of how I've explained it to people is I shut my voice off. I'm just starting to talk again. And with that, coming out of the dark and and moving in silence, at least in that way, because I've always been very vocal. I'm finding that it takes me a lot longer to talk, to speak. If I say something, I want it to make sense and I want it to be impactful and I want it to have meaning. I don't want to have mindless chatter, and I'm very charismatic. I'm a very charismatic person. I can bullshit you all day. It's a gift of mine. And that's why people are always really confused. How are you not going into government? How are you not going to politics? I could have very easily. I have a silver. I could do that all day. But in that quiet, what I realized is I do have a gift. And if I have the gift of tongue and I have the gift of communication and I can get people to listen and I can galvanize people, I want to make sure that when I open my mouth, not only does it make sense, but it's going to create a better future for us. And also not a future that has been like all this baby step stuff. No, I want to be a world builder, a world changer. And so in this like 6 to 7 year period, I've been just consuming the work of Black feminist authors, Audre Lorde, Octavia Butler. I mean, Afrofuturism, science fiction has really allowed me to see beyond the structures and what, the sample sets. They say, well, we could do this and this would be possible. And I'm like, I want to break all that and let's get creative and imaginative and really think about what this world could look like. And there's so many amazing people that are doing this right now. This is not like me just, there's just so much. And we're in this current moment where I realize that I am a world builder. And that's why I've always been uncomfortable trying to be a part of this world that wants me to operate in a way where you have to base it off of something that already exists.
Right.
And I'm like, no, I want to completely break all of that. Let's think about a new world and how we can create a new world. And maybe it doesn't always have to be a complete departure from that, from what exists.
But it might be, and that's okay. Yeah.
And that's okay. And we should start there.
Yeah. That's really interesting. First of all, shout out to you. I didn't know that some of those things about you, and that's really, really dope. And I think you're super awesome. But also, that like ties into this topic that you brought to the table a little bit, because just the whole concept of we don't have to always just model the traditional and put a new frilly on top and say now it's new, but it's still the same thing. We can actually break things up, maybe break it down. Whatever the break is going to break, and then build. Because when I asked all of my homies, what are some topics that you guys would want discussed on this show? You hit me with something super juicy that would require a lot of probably the listeners of this show and just I'll say Americans in general. I only want to speak, about stuff that I know, to break things down and break things up and break things apart so that new things can be built, which is radical relationship structures. Specifically, you said, how do you show up with love outside of traditional relationship structures? And that's a very, very juicy topic, and I was instantly like, okay, because you didn't just say like I don't know the way that you worded, like how do you show up with love to a not, it was like okay, there's some thought here. This isn't just I want to hear about non-monogamy or
Yeah, like a specific
the
thing.
token trendy word. No, this was like I want to hear how do you do this thing within this thing, and that's how it was worded. I sound really elementary, but it's because I'm going
Yeah.
to read this piece, a little excerpt from a video that I watched in preparation for this interview here, and I just wanted to watch over you, and then I want you to respond to it with I don't know, whatever you had in mind when you agreed to come on the show and you introduced that topic. Okay, so this thing, it's from a YouTube video called "Alternatives to a Standard Relationship," and it's talking specifically about romance. But it says here, to be considered remotely normal, we are meant to develop overwhelming emotional and sexual feelings for one very special person, who will then become a combination of our best friend, soul sexual partner, co-parent, business associate, therapist, travel companion, property co-manager, teacher, and soulmate, with whom we will live exclusively in one house, in one bed, for many decades, in substantial harmony, with an active tolerance for each other's foibles and ongoing desire for their evolving appearance till death do us part. And when you put it like that, it just it makes you giggle. It makes you giggle because obviously there's plenty of beauty in traditional monogamy. There's a lot of there's um when you start to explore non-traditional thing, it doesn't make the traditional thing not beautiful. But anyway, you heard it. I don't want to make you forget by too much words. You heard this thing. Floor is
I
yours.
just, it just always sounds, I think a few things. One, initial, wow, exhausting. Like just listening to the definition, exhausted. I'm tired. I'm just tired listening to it. And you think, why would anyone ever sign up to do this? Um, and again, I think, and I too believe like monogamy. I know monogamous couples who have beautiful relationships and are living their lives in the best way possible. I'm not anti-monogamy. I'm also not pro-monogamy, but you do what you do. But something that as I think about, in my current space in life and thinking about love and relationships, I think, wouldn't it be amazing if someone would read something like that to us, on a regular basis? Like when you say, I have a crush, and you just have like a friend who would be like, okay, so you have a crush. Let's talk about, where this could potentially go and all the trappings, right? Like, and I think, the one thing that stuck out to me in all of that was substantial harmony.
Ooh,
Like,
right,
like
right.
first of all,
If they didn't reveal their intentions of this paragraph before that little, it's clear there.
you have so many, and there's so many things you're asking this person to be. And I am not exactly sure at what point in my life someone imparted this wisdom to me, but I had it very early on. I know I had it before I got into any significant relationship. But the belief that one person is going to be your end all and be all, and to ask them to do that, was so selfish of a thing to do. And so I've always come to every relationship, serious commitment that I've been in, with the understanding that this person is only going to check so many boxes. I would love it if they checked a majority of my boxes, but that is probably not going to happen. And I believe that, right? Now that's the theory. And then you get into the practice of it, right? And I got pushed into the practice of it really fast. So I met my partner, Kyle, in college. And, you know, we only dated for about 2 years before we graduated. Then we moved to New York, where we knew no one. He's going to grad school. I have no immediate plans. I'm just following my heart wherever he's going, because I'm just chilling. And now we are each other's soul contacts in this. That we're literally all we have here in this big, big, big city. And we end up in this weird space where, and I guess I shouldn't say we, I end up in this weird space where I don't have anything that I necessarily am wanting to do. I've never been so like free flowing in my life as far as like not having an immediate next step. I don't know anyone. The city is very scary for me. So I kind of develop an agoraphobia of going outside.
Much
So I stay at home a lot.
For sure.
I stay at home a lot. And I end up creating this, and I start developing this thing where this man, he's so amazing and he has all of these things and I don't have anything going on. And so I say, well, if I'm going to be here, I'm going to do this really well. So I start becoming this homemaker. And when I tell you, I have no idea where this person came from. That has never been me. It has never been a goal. I never believed in taking care of a house and a home. That is just not a thing. But when I tell you I go into homemaker mode real fucking fast, I'm cooking dinners, I'm grocery shopping, I'm cleaning, the house, I'm doing the laundry just to feel like I'm worthy of being in a relationship with this person. And I'm putting so much on him and I'm wanting to spend time with him and I'm wanting to hang out with him and I'm talking to him and I'm asking him to be literally all those things I got laid out, all those things. I'm asking him to be everything for me. And we get to a point where I'm so unhappy. I'm so unhappy. And I sit down and talk to him. I'm just like, I just don't really know what I'm doing. And I don't know if my lack of interest in this relationship is because of all these things that I'm thinking. I took a trip to Mexico and it was kind of a game changer for me because in Mexico, I got to tap back into my true self. Can
you expand on that a little?
I ended up going back to grad school. So
okay.
I'm doing all this stuff and, I'm also, we're poor college students and I go back to grad school and I'm working and I save up enough money. I say, I'm going to take myself on a solo trip. It was my first solo travel. And I go to Mexico City and it's the most amazing experience. I meet someone on the plane. He's offering me Jack Daniels. He's like, I ordered 2 of these. You want one? And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And for most people, they're like, okay, Crista, random alcohol from random man on plane. But I am someone I trust my intuition about people very
It's
closely.
Unopened on the plane.
It's unopened on the plane. So we start talking, we're having a conversation and he's like, I'm busy. I'm going back home from New York because I was visiting my family. And I'm telling him, well, this is my first time in Mexico City. I've never been here. I'm really excited. And he's just like, let's exchange numbers. I would love to show you the city. I just want people to fall in love with Mexico. So I would love to show you the beautiful, beautiful parts of the country. And I'm like, man, let's exchange. This was a good exchange. I didn't pick up any weird vibes. Let's do it. When I tell you this man took me around the entire city, it never once got weird. I met his mom. I met his son. I saw parts of the city that I never thought I probably wouldn't have seen without him. Mm-hmm. The food is delicious. The people are amazing. I'm spending time. And one thing that was really interesting is all of my friends from Mexico told me that I would be fine if I didn't know Spanish in Mexico City. They were like, you'll be fine. People speak English there. So I'm like, all right, cool. And I know a little Spanish, so it'll be fine. We'll be good. No, man, they had no interest in speaking English with me, period. 0. We're not having it. And so I couldn't communicate with people in a fluid way. I want to collect stories. I want to do. So I ended up being a very introspective trip for me. I had to be quiet a lot and I did not expect that to happen. So I'm just, doing this, but I mean, my skin is glowing and I'm bouncing around the city and I'm meeting people and I'm eating this amazing food and all this stuff. And I'm just like, this is the life. I want to be this freedom, being free like this. This is me. This is who I want to be. And I realized that I had started to close myself off so much in New York. I was so scared to engage in my true self and all these things. And I created this version of myself that I thought I needed to be, which was like so not vibrant. Like, I mean, my light was so dim. It was so sad. And then of course also the
No, but
burnout, right?
I definitely get that and resonate with that. I've been plenty scared myself in Atlanta, for instance. But
Mm,
keep going.
yeah. So Mexico was a game changer. And so I come home and I say, something's not working. Something's not right. I didn't want to come home. I didn't want to leave that person. And now that I'm back, I feel like I have to make changes to bring her back with me that are not gonna, situate, probably very well with you. I need to be freer. I need to go out. I need to explore. I need to do all these things. And he says something to me that changed the game for us. And he said, I never asked you to do any of that. He said, I do not want to date Kyle's girlfriend. I want to date Crista. That's the only person I've ever wanted to date. And at that moment, I immediately realized that he was correct.
That's beautiful.
Never asked me to be that person. I did that. My fears, my insecurities, everything. I made this person.
And if I may, and it's understandable that you did, right? I mean, first of all, New York is New York.
Ooh, it's a big one.
It's these fucking buildings, the wind in the fall, the I've been there.
Oh.
I didn't live there, but I'm from Delaware, so I've been there plenty of times. Shout out to New York, but and the stairs, some of the bars are lit, but some of the bars are not lit, even though they're full every night. The You could say overpopulation, there's a lot of things, the cigarette smoke that's just in the air. There's a lot of things that if you are not prepared or you just don't have that toughness, it
will eat you up.
Inside, do the laundry and cook dinner. I swear it will.
It will eat you up. I had never been in contact with so much poverty on a regular basis. So I had to shut that part of my heart down just to survive. And that didn't feel good. I never come across, now mind you, I think New York people get a bad rep because of the way that they are. People think that they're mean. I don't think that they're mean. I think that they are busy. They're busy people. So they don't want to chit chat, which is weird because when you're coming from the South, everybody wants chit chat.
Yeah.
Up north, they're like, can I help you? What do you need? Okay. So it was the hardest place for me. I've lived in a lot of places. I've never had such a difficult time putting roots in, making friends. And I make friends. It's like a hobby of mine. It was so difficult to make friends because everybody has their established community, but there's also a collective distrust of each other.
Right. So
New York.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And so I wanted to say that, because I as I'm listening to you, I'm also thinking, trying to keep in mind like what the listener may be thinking, listening to this thing. And I guess I brought that up to say that it's very normal that in a new environment that is uniquely its own, like New York, or some other places, like some people go to California, whatever. That isolation, that's sort of self-isolation and a panic to get to a self identity, an identity that fits into what you were taught was normal, is completely normal and understandable. And when it's time to move on, you can't like be mad at yourself and judge yourself and say, oh, why didn't I see this so much sooner? Why didn't I just logically come to the conclusion that nobody asked me to do that? No, you didn't, because you weren't supposed to yet. You were supposed to grow in a certain kind of way, my opinion, and it's okay. So
you gotta give yourself
just want to
grace.
introduce that. Yeah,
you gotta give yourself grace. And I would just hope, for folks, if you're entering into that space and you do have a partner, I would hope that you have a partner who would support you regardless of what you're going through. Also, I wish upon you a partner who will also like, hey girl, I just want to check in here. You're acting real funny. What's going on? Like, and my partner, while he is very astute and, can see a lot of things and learn a lot of things, he's not a poker and a prodder. So unless something is really toxic or something's really coming up, he's not going to be like, let's sit down and have a talk and a discussion. Something big needs to happen. And so, I always love it. I love attentive partners. When I see my friends who are entering into relationships and I watch their partners, one of my favorite things is if they find themselves an attentive partner, I just smile the whole time. I'm just like, what a blessing to have someone who's literally watching you.
Right.
And when things deviate from their habit, they're like, hey, what's that? What you got going on there? Because sometimes you don't, like you said, I didn't see it. I didn't even see it happening. Right. So, yeah. So I wish that on you all, to have attentive partners that can, pull you to the side when you are operating outside of yourself, and they know you so much, right, to the core of you. And I think ultimately my partner knew me to the core. And so I think if it had gotten too out of hand, that would have been the check-in. And I think, for us, me coming back from Mexico and being like, I feel stifled by this relationship, And another thing that my partner said, which I also really love about him, is he was like, I never want you to stay in this relationship if it's going to make you less of who you are. If you cannot fully be yourself here, then you do need to go somewhere else, because I love you that much. I do not want you to stay here and be bitter. And those are also words that I needed to hear. I will try to be expansive and I will try to accept the person that you are. But if you feel like you have to pare yourself down, mute yourself, turn the volume down a notch to be in a relationship with me, then this is obviously not the relationship you need to be in. And so I also wish those partners on you that will be like, you know what?
Don't do that.
Right. Don't do that. Don't do that. Somebody will be able to handle that. And
that didn't attract me. Right.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Most definitely. So okay. So you come back, you get this wonderful sort of revelation. It all starts to make sense and detangle. And I guess maybe you were gonna say how you stopped requiring of him to be your, what is it again? Your soul sexual partner, co-parent, business associate, therapist, travel companion,
right. All of those things,
manager.
right?
Yeah.
yeah. So I go out, I get a therapist, right? So I get a therapist. I came into relationship with a really good friend, my best friend. And I started making other friends in New York City. And I developed these really, and I had previously had some friendships that I carried from college through to my grad school. They weren't all in New York City. But what I started to do is I looked at my life this way. My partner can do these things for me. I still have these needs that I need to be met. Where can I get those needs met? Oh, well, she can do this for me. He can do that for me. And so what happens is I start compartmentalizing my life. And I don't know if compartmentalize is the right word, but I build a community of people to meet the needs of Crista Carter so that I can be fulfilled all the time. And so, I have my partner, and so we spend time together. That's where I get my physical affection. I get my emotional affection. That is where, we hang out and we do all that. And he's my nesting partner. And so that is who I spend time with. I'm building a family with. That's who I look forward to the future with. Right. And then I have my best friend, and she's this amazing creative artist. And I also get a level of intimacy from her, because, and not that all women do this, but because this is a woman, there's a different type of intimacy that we could have. And we talk about things, and there's true friendship there. And she goes shopping with me, and we go on walks. One of my favorite things was like the reciprocity. I'm a gift giver sometimes. And so I'd just be out in the store and I'd see something and I'd think of her. And then she'd be out in the store and she'd see something, she'd think of me, and we'd come together and be like, oh, I got you a thing. And that's such a great, fun thing. And so like, getting that type of reciprocity in that friendship, right? And I start doing that in all of these other friendships. And I became this person who just was so fulfilled, was just really fulfilled. I was living a really amazing life. I mean, I had a lot of other things that were going on, but that started to balance me out. And it took a lot of pressure off of him. He didn't feel like he had to do all those things for me anymore, or feel like, oh, I'm going to disappoint her when I don't show up in a specific way, because that's also hard on your partner, right? It's not that they don't care, and it's not that they don't want to do those things for you. They're just not built for that, baby. That's just not them. They want to, if they could just, buy the add-on package, they would do it, but that's not how that works. And so I also had to realize that it also takes a toll on him when I ask him to do things that he just doesn't do. It's stressful for him to try to meet those needs. And so I just stopped asking.
And do you think it's just an easy way out of what human beings are naturally supposed to do, or how do you meet that kind of thinking, that kind of argument, or that kind of thinking, that, well, it's supposed to be difficult, that's what grows you as a person, and it builds character and builds strength in the family, and it sets a good example for the children, and you're supposed to go through times where you're figuring things out and it's hard and you hate each other sometimes and yada yada yada. So you shouldn't have that kind of thinking. How do you meet that when somebody says, well, that's just the easy way?
I believe in working smarter, not harder. I think that we're so dedicated to this struggle narrative, that this struggle love. And it's not that it's not hard. My life is not perfect because I have other people meeting these needs. We still have our moments. We still have to sit at the table and talk about stuff and break them down, right? It doesn't let your partner off the hook, right? Because they still have things that they're supposed to do for you, and they're not going to do those things perfect all the time. And it's like, look, I'm only asking you to do these things, so I'm going to need you to figure it out. So no. So it doesn't mean that you're not going to have hard conversation. It doesn't mean that your relationship isn't going to go through its ups and downs. Nothing's perfect. But I think that if we learn to work smarter, not harder, if we build a community of people that support us, a village that supports us, I adopted a lot of this. There is a book, and I'm like literally about to I thought I grabbed all the books that I was going to reference today, but it's called, I'm going to mess this up, Melodoma Some. I think I'm saying that right. And it's of Water and Spirit, I believe is the name of the book.
Some sounds very familiar.
Yeah. And it talks about, and his wife has another book called The Spirit of Intimacy.
Intimacy. Okay. That's why I read The Spirit of Intimacy book.
So his wife has that book. And then he has this other book that talks about African traditions, initiation, tapping into the ancestral realm. And how that is focused. Yeah, and
rituals upon rituals. Yeah. Honestly, if I could really quick. In reading The Spirit of Intimacy, have you read both?
I have not finished The Spirit of Intimacy, but I've made it a good chunk of.
Really, it's so teeny tiny.
I know. I don't know why I haven't finished it. Something stopped me. I'm a little bit here with books. I jump. But I have given it
Audible. If it's on YouTube or Audible, then you give me that. Don't give me the book.
Oh no, I'm a book hoarder. You can see my library back here, and that's not the worst of it.
Yeah,
that is not the worst of it. There's books all up and down these houses. Like, it's just they're, I need them close.
But in reading the Spirit of Intimacy and hearing the perspective of honestly, my first reaction was, okay, this is just way too many rituals. And like Queen Afua's book too. So many. Jesus, all these rituals just what? Well, that was, so again, this is my initial reaction before some things settled down into more of an understanding. It was like, why? It's not, what? Then you got to do it right. And you got to be in the right mindset. And, yeah, like, and the people around you, you got, like, you kind of got to build community before some of them really become effective. And it's like, goodness gracious. But Upon settling with some of that, I realized that, well, actually, there's a lot of things that we do day to day that we just don't call ritual. Like
Mm-hmm.
putting music on to clean would
Mm-hmm.
definitely count. Like without
Yeah, 100%.
question, that's a 100% ritual.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention putting on music when we have sex,
Mm-hmm.
when we fuck.
Right.
That's a
Yeah.
ritual
Your
because
morning
that
coffee,
sets the mood. Your morning coffee
ritual.
is a ritual, either making it or if you get it from Starbucks or whatever, and you always drink it in the parking lot before you walk in. That's ritual.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that brought some understanding after, or I guess I fell into some understanding after a while, but in reading, yeah, and reading from the perspective of people that come from that world, which is completely different than ours, it was like, why are there so many rituals? Oh my God. And so many people involved with like everyone.
I used to think that. So when I read that book too, I was just like, oh my God, there's just like so many people and like living on top of each other and like having to do work with people. Oh, cohabitate, collaborate. Like, whoa, that just feels so exhausting to do that, right? It's just like because we're so individualized here. And one of my favorite stories from that book is they have their mom who's still in Africa. She's getting a little bit older and they're here and it's just them here, and I believe they live in North Carolina or something like that, and they kept telling their mom, come live with us, come stay with us, we'd love to have you. And her response was, why would I do that? It is just you two. That sounds awful. and
Yeah.
I and as I read more about it, I was just like, oh, I get why it sounds awful, because you have division of labor in these villages and in these communities. Everybody has a job to do. Everybody has specific gifts. And so you don't have to do it all yourself. You don't have to exhaust each other. And I never thought about monogamy as being such an exhausting thing until I really read that book. And I was like, it's exhausting when it's just the two of you. And then you add kids into that, right? Like children. And I think about that all the time. And when we started talking about having children, I was like, I will never have children if we do not have a community. If we are not nearby and situated to our family, that is not something that I wish to do. That sounds exhausting. It sounds horrible. But of course, me and Kyle, we have lived away from our family for years. Now we're in DC, still no family, right? We're a little bit closer to South Carolina, but still not close enough. Um, and I've watched it, and even people, even some folks who have a family that they live nearby, even that can be a little strenuous. But there is support there. There's the division of labor, and so I just could never imagine wanting to do all of that work with just the two of you. And then we wonder why people end up bitter, hating each other. They've lost lack of passion. They don't want to talk to each other. They sit in opposite sides of the house because they are exhausted. They are so tired. And it's really not they're tired of each other. They're tired of the things they have to do together, which is everything. So I would prefer to live in a community. And again, that does not have to look like living on a commune. That does not have to look like living in a house with people. That can also look like, when we talk about different forms of relationships, that can look like it is intentional friendship. It is an intentional familial setup. There are agreements that are made, right? You take the kids this weekend, and then I will take all the kids next weekend so that we all can have a date night. How can I help? Tell me about the medicines you're taking. Tell me who I need to call if something happens. Do I need to check in on you? Like, I think about this, and this is really, and again, I might be jumping ahead, but when I talk about the different forms of love and relationship, and again, I will preface it by saying is I am such a new scholar to this world, and I have been actively practicing this for a long time and not knowing. I thought I was just different. I just thought that I was making things happen to work for me. And now I'm coming into the knowledge that there are a lot of people who are creating and building different types of relationships in relation to each other that will best serve the way that they want to live their lives. One of the books I have it here. I literally recommend it. I love it. It's called How We Show Up, Reclaiming Family, Friendship, and Community by Mia Songbird. And woo, buddy, so good. I mean, it is a collection of interviews. And she's just talking about these different types of
That's probably really
relational
easy
stuff.
to read.
Yep. I listened to it on Audible. It's on Audible. That was, I went back and kind of highlighted and went through some things at some point. But for me, it was one of the most affirming texts that I've read in a long time. It's always nice. And I don't know if you've experienced that, where you think you're thinking things by yourself and no one thinks like you. And then you read a book and someone communicate, and also too, you don't know how to communicate it in a way that people can understand it. So you just have this like thinking in your head. And then you read a book or an essay or a piece that not only is talking about what you've been thinking about, but they put it in such a succinct way. And you're just like, yes, this is it. And it's really affirming to know that you're not alone in your thinking. And not only are you not alone in your thinking, there are people who are practicing this and doing it every day. So I love that book. And it was one of the triggers for when you asked me about love, because it triggered me into this course of study. I mean, for the last 2 years, I've been working on healing childhood trauma and learning how to love myself.
Your own or like
my own.
Okay.
My own, to myself. And that happened at the beginning of the pandemic, where I've always Bibled myself. You remember, I always pulled up to Morehouse by myself. I didn't pull up with a clique. It was just me. So I've always.
I mean, you was in the clique, but you was in.
I mean, I was there.
But you did, yeah. No, you pulled up,
yeah. It was gang, but I made that trip by myself.
Yeah.
But I've always Bibled myself, and so we're at the beginning of the pandemic. I think we're like 1 week in, and I'm getting the itch, bro. Like the real true itch. And I'm just like, and I come to the realization, I'm just like, you don't like spending time with yourself anymore. That's interesting. Why is that? What are you hiding from? Why do you make you so uncomfortable? What's going on? So I took my ass back to therapy because I wasn't going to answer those questions by myself. And I go back to therapy. But then I have a friend who gets COVID. And again, this is at the beginning. So it's very scary when someone gets COVID. You just don't know. We don't know at this point how this virus is impacting people. And my friend lives alone. And I see him tweet about it. And we were friends, like we knew each other and we liked each other, but we weren't like super close. But I see him tweeting about getting COVID, being alone in New York City, not really having anyone to talk to him, check on him or anything. So I give him a call. And I'm like, hey, what's going on? How are you feeling? And he's just like, telling me. And I'm just like, well, I was like, you know what? I'm going to start checking in on you every day. I'll give you a call. And just to make sure you're good, you let me know if there's anything you need. I can try to send that by, Amazon, Uber, et cetera. But at the very least, I'm going to call you every day. Right. Because he was, getting stir crazy, being siloed, not having anyone to talk to. And so we start talking on the phone every day, 15 minutes, 30 minutes. They start getting progressively longer. And in the midst of that, we're talking about, our relationships and our relationship to ourselves. And we start talking about how so much of our issues with receiving and accepting love and being able to have healthy relationships, we see it being triggered in our childhood. And so I literally have had All About Love by Bell Hooks. I'd had this book for maybe 5 years. I bought it because everybody was recommending. I was like, I'm gonna read it. Pick it up, put it down, pick it up, pick it down. So I'm like, you know what? We're talking about this. I'm doing this work. Let me read this book. And I start reading the first chapter, and it literally hits on so much of what me and my friend had discussed. So I close the book and I get on Amazon. I ask my friend for his address. I get on Amazon. I send him the book. And I'm like, something's coming to you. It should be there in 2 days. He's like, okay, what is it? And I'm like, you'll see. And I'm asking him, like, do you read? And he's just like, no, I'm not a huge reader. I don't really read. I'm like, all right, cool. The book comes there. He's like, oh, thanks so much. And I'm like, I know you said you're not a huge reader, but the spirit moved me when I picked up this book. If you would like, we can read chapter by chapter and discuss once a week this book and kind of start doing this work together. And that catapulted us. And we've been doing it for 2 years. We have our own little book club. We call it the Only Lovers Left Alive book club. And we've read books, books about Buddhism, but everything about it is about, healing our trauma, childhood things, learning ourselves, learning how to be in relationship with people. I'm really trying to remember why I got on this tangent. But
wow, yeah. How did you get exactly
how do we get
here?
here? Love, books,
Childhood trauma.
oh, and relationships. Okay. Again, so this is a new way. I've never interacted with a friend in this way, right? But you see a need and you see where you can show up for someone, right? And that's a 15-minute call. And then it's doing this reading. Now it's doing this deep work with each other, right? I would say that probably one of my closest friends now. I've had friends for years, and I would say he's probably one of the closest people to me because we've been doing this work together. And all these readings have really catapulted me into one. And again, I think I was thinking about this earlier about how do I logically talk about how I got here. It started with self. It started with self-inquiry. It started with self-investigation, self-healing. And I stand by that all the time. Do that work by yourself before you try to do it with other people. Or if you're doing it with other people, do it in a small group, an intimate group, right? But now I'm new to this world, but now it's like coming off of that healing and talking about love and how to love myself and the ways that I was receiving love and the ways that I was giving love and the toxic ways that I might have been doing that and coming to terms with that. And now I'm getting into this world where expanding outside of just like one friendship or romantic relationships, I'm reevaluating all of my relationships, whether they be platonic, whether they be romantic, also my relationship with my community, with other people. So yeah, I'm really trying to find that loop and tie that back in. I'm sure we'll circle back to it at some point in time, but yeah, I think that we cannot be siloed. Or you can be. I suggest you don't silo yourself in your relationship. I think it's important there are definitely things that you do need to silo. Like I think me and Kyle have made it this far because we are on our own island most of the time. Right. And so we make up our own rules and we do not allow folks to poke at us very much. We don't allow for people to interrogate our relationship very much. We have made agreements. We have come to an understanding about how we're going to function and how we're going to be in relationship to each other. And so we do silo ourselves off quite a bit. But the more we started to, we built this foundation at this point. We've been together for 10 years. Now that we have this very strong foundation about what we do and do not do as in regards to each other and, our household, we've slowly started to bring other people in. I've always been anti-couple friends. Oof. It literally freaked me out all the time. I don't know. Do you all have a lot of couple friends?
So me and Tensi, we have a story.
Oh, was it a good love story?
Absolutely. But let me see. So, okay, couple friends are just like real friends. You can make friends and they turn out to be not a good fit, even though they're a good person, right? And me and Tensi, as it's going to sound so arrogant, but I don't mean it in that way. As advanced as we are in thinking and just in depth, and again, it sounds so arrogant, but I don't mean it that but we just are, and I just am like even within us, like me, I'm pretty unique in depth, at least in my peer group that I've been exposed to and that I've been able to hang out with and whatnot. There aren't many couples who can be who have proven to be a good fit to just be hanging around me and Tensi like that and conversing and energy exchanging. like that. Now, what's interesting though about that is in 2017, I think it was, I developed a crush for a coworker, and a couple months, whatever, I bring it up because it doesn't like go away naturally. Bring it
Mm-hmm.
up, and Tenzie's like, well, we talk, and eventually we have a girlfriend, and then it's like, oh, okay, see how this
Mm-hmm.
goes. That did not work out past a
Mm-hmm.
certain point, but that was so surprising. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I have this thing. I know I'm not a sleaze. I know I'm
Yeah.
not a hoe,
Mm-hmm.
and I know I'm not dishonest. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I can't deny that it's a completely different feeling than when I look at you. But when I look at this person, there's something that happens, and it's very natural and it
Mm-hmm.
feels right. So I want to
Mm-hmm.
see, but and so we have this whole journey, and now since then it's just been us two, and since 2020, it's really just been us two. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we don't we don't I refuse to go back to working for other people. And so with Ufulu Child, our business,
Mm-hmm.
we're together. And
All
that,
the time.
yes, we are
Mm-hmm.
right next to each other all the time. You hear me?
Mm-hmm.
One house, one bed for decades and decades. No.
One
but,
office, like.
but I often bring up to her the concept of expanding again, not just to try it trivially, but because there's so many benefits, and there is the pressure on me to be, very good at so many things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now I have a large pit of feminine energy in myself within, like, what I'm saying. So I am really good at a whole lot of stuff, but I'm not good at everything, and I still do have a very expansive male self as well. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And it's not just sexual. It's not just beast.
Mm-hmm.
It's expansive in the human way.
Spirit. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I bring that conversation up often. But there's a lot. I mean, when you run a business and you're both running that business, it's there's not a whole lot of time. So I'm not spending time in bars and shit, meeting people, and neither is she, because
Mm-hmm.
we're also busy. And I
Yeah. Entrepreneurs are, God bless y'all. I mean, and I say that
thank
like
you.
I'm not an entrepreneur, and it is exhausting. Um, you do not have free time.
No, we don't.
No, you
Like I
don't.
said, this is my second interview today. I got 3 interviews tomorrow. We're doing a 30-day challenge. So I start off my 8 a.m. We go live in the private challenge group, and do a training for the 30-day challenge. You know what I'm saying? This week is move week, so we're also doing workouts live for the challenge this week, and we have other endeavors, in regards to marketing. She's doing a lot of studying and learning in regards to the marketing piece, and I'm starting this new podcast. I just started a new YouTube and Instagram page to go with the podcast, so that it's not just dry and beggy.
Yeah.
Please watch this.
Mhm.
But so yeah, free time is just no. What is that? But
Yeah. But blessings to have an expansive partner in that way, right?
yeah,
Like.
there's one more thing I wanted to say
Mhm.
about the entrepreneurship piece. Is I think what has kept me afloat in some ways, besides Tensei's natural, she's so pure. So besides that, her purity and stuff, um, is the fact that we are doing something together. We are building something that could literally help enhance the human story, for millions, potentially billions of people, a couple generations down the line. So we're doing something. We have a vision and a dream that we're working towards very diligently and very hard, and very on purpose. And I think that also gives us a leg up on the traditional monogamy look.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Because we're not just going to work, getting stressed out at work, and coming home and then dealing with each other, and we still have to do the mundane tasks, cut the lawn, do the laundry,
Mhm.
stuff like that, take care of the kids, whatever. We're actually building something together. So
Mhm.
although that also comes with struggles, and when we disagree, we have now we have systems that can deal with that. But for a long time, when we disagreed on something, somebody was mad that we didn't make
Mhm.
this business decision. But it does give. Oh, it does also have very beautiful benefits of that ripple out into our like structure or whatever. You know what
100%.
I'm trying to say?
No, no, I'm telling you, like, I mean, I am not a naturally monogamous person.
Mm-hmm.
This has never been my shtick. I ended up falling in love with a monogamous person, and I love him deeply. And it has been such an amazing ride to build with him. And people always ask for our love story, and they think I'm going to give them like goo goo gagas, and I've learned to romanticize the story for people and like highlight some things. Um,
I've learned to sprinkle some sugar on the top, but
but I always tell people, like, when I get real with it, I'm like, what made me decide to commit myself to him? It was a business decision. That's what I did. I did a cost benefit analysis. I said, well, he has potential. Can't bank on that though. Don't know what, you never know what anyone's going to do, but he has so much. I saw his work ethic. I saw how he was with people. I saw his integrity. We had been friends for so long. I said, he has a lot of potential and he's currently making me happy. Don't know how long that's going to last. I said, so maybe he doesn't add anything. At very least, he's a null point, and not affecting me in any way at some point. But I was like, I don't think that he would ever take anything away from me though. And that I was like, so it's either he doesn't add anything to me and we figure that out, or he's going to add. I only ever saw abundance when I looked
yeah,
at him, because I was really unbothered. I didn't want to be partner with anyone. I didn't want to be tied to anyone. I knew I was a mover and shaker, and everything about commitment just made me feel like it felt like a chokehold. And when you grow up in the church, as you know, it just literally, especially when you're a woman, it's all about the man's vision and you supporting his vision, you stepping behind him and you aligning yourselves with each other. And I knew that we both could be two separate beings moving at the same pace, coming together occasionally and then going and moving away. And so we have always maintained that. Kyle and I have very separate lives. People are always asking, oh, where's Kyle? Where's Kyle? I'm like, at home. Why didn't you bring him? He doesn't want to be here. This is not his thing. This is my thing. I like to do this. He'll come for the things that he enjoys, or when he has to, like, it's an obligation and I make him come. But often, like, me and Kyle's lives, we meet at home. When we're out in the world, we have separate friend groups. We operate completely separately, and people are always like, how does that work? And I'm like, because when we come home, we're friends. So when we're in the home, in the space, this is what we wanted to build with each other. And we do things by ourselves outside of the house, away from other people. But a lot of times we do that separately. And so I think, again, it's just about having a partner that can allow you to be expansive. And that's one of the blessings. And mind you, like, I am also, and I didn't say this in my day, I am also a queer Black woman. So men really don't be doing it for me most of the time, have not done it for me. That man up there, one of the most expansive men I've ever met, and has never asked me to be anything that I'm not, and has always made space, even if it was difficult for him, has always allowed himself to stretch to meet me in my evolution, which is like also beautiful. And so I think that, like, just to kind of note back to what you said, was you saw someone, you had feelings, and it's like, dang, I kind of would like to explore that. What would that feel like? And to have a partner who can expand and say, well, let's try it out. Like,
low
you see
key,
how it go. You see how it go. And if you like
yeah.
it, we love it. Like, I always tell people, my ultimate goal in my partnership is I want Kyle to be happy. I want him to pursue the things that are going to make him happy, because I've pledged to myself that I'm going to get everything out of this life that I possibly can. I'm gonna do that. So you don't gotta worry about me, baby. So I want you to do that too. I would hope you can do that because I'm gonna do it. That's exactly what I'm gonna do. So I always push you, go ahead, live your best
No,
life.
that's scary though. You know what I'm saying? And it's why is it scary? It's scary because
Mhm.
um, they're everyone around you is always trying to define you. Since you come into the world, you know they say you're this, so you should that. You're
Mhm.
this, so you should that. And then when you come into adulthood and you think, you know, I'm free to do whatever, your boss, your community, your family, you know, your elders or whatever, the books that you read, they're like telling you what you're supposed to do, and then they're also like under their breath telling you, and there's a wrong way to be,
Mhm.
and there are so many wrong answers, and if you pick one of the wrong answers, then it depends on who's
There's
talking.
consequences.
There's consequences. Thank you.
Mhm.
And so it's scary to look at somebody who you do not want to be without, right? On the
Mhm.
inside, you don't, and be like, look, I have to live,
Mhm.
and a part of me feels like you have to too, but that's not going to be an obligation from me. Hopefully, that's an obligation from yourself to yourself that you also have to live, and I would never, you know, be like, I'm going to go live so this is over, but I am going to say right here and now and from henceforth that I'm going to live. And,
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying? I'd like to do that with you. I'd like to do that alongside you, I should say. I'd like to
Mhm.
do that while you're doing that. And how it looks now may change.
Mhm.
And then being quiet and listening to them. That's a
Mhm.
very scary thing because
You
there
never know what they're gonna say.
yeah, depending on like how long you've been together and stuff like that, there may be a visceral reaction to that.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah. No, I think that's so important. Like, you know, I think the only way that we can be as expansive and as creative in our relationship is because we built a foundation of trust first.
Mm.
And so people are always like, you know, when I was monogamous, they're always like, "Oh, I mean, how can you do that? You don't want to be with women. You don't want to like. You don't feel like you're missing out. You don't feel like you're da da da." And I'd be like, "No, I have everything. I mean, for the most part, again, I don't look for everybody to check all boxes, but he's checking most. We're good. I have other things. I have other relationships with women that are not sexual, etc. And so I'm loving women. Don't worry about that. I get to love on women in my own way. And um, I think what we did in those first, 8 years of our relationship is we built a significant amount of trust with each other. And I'm not a trusting person. We had separate lives. We grew up differently, and I'm a survivor. I'm a survivalist. So it's me or, and everybody else can get the boat. You can get kicked off the boat real fast if I feel like my life is in danger. Um, And so we had to work through my commitment issues. We
Mm.
had to work with my ability to communicate, to do conflict resolution, and to not, because I mean, my initial reaction, anytime conflict came up, I'd be like, I don't care about this enough, so I'm going to exit stage right. Don't want to do this. But we were forced to do that. And so I always tell them, like, I never regret that time that we spent just with each other, because it has allowed us to move so seamlessly into any changes. When we need to morph, we morph with ease. It is amazing to me because we trust each other inherently. We know that at the end of the day, we are both trying to make sure that each other are taken care of and that the life we built is taken care of and that we didn't waste that time. And so that is ultimately and so when I talk to people about this, and I know that we are very sideways talking about polyamory here, or non-monogamy, ethical non-monogamy, or all, any type of
Wah,
romantic
wah,
relate,
wah.
blah, 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 blah. But I do tell people, they're like, "Oh, I could never do it," and I'm like, "Well, you probably do not have a relationship built on trust in a significant way." I would say that, like,
And that's fine. You know what I'm
And
saying?
that's
Because that could change for the better or the worse, but it could change for the better is the point. And two, it's who cares? Like,
you don't have to do this. This is not for everyone, and it's
yeah.
not necessary, right? Like this is not something that you have to do at all. But if you are going to do it, there are some prerequisites. If you're going to do it in a healthy way, especially if you're going to do it coming out of a primary relationship and moving and trying to incorporate others, or just having separate things. Like I think the trust is fundamental. The intention is fundamental. That communication. Oh, if you don't have trust and communication, do not bother. Do not waste your time. It will be a dumpster fire. Because I've never communicated so much in my life.
Mhm.
But
Did you I mean obviously now is going to be different than yesterday, but did you ever consider yourself a good communicator in the context of relationships before where you have arrived?
oh no, I was trash, bro.
Uh,
I was the worst.
cuz I was pretty dope with I could communicate, which is why I think low key, which is why I think during my college years I was always friend zoned because
Mhm.
I think a good communicator, you know what one you know and bless her soul, she's beautiful, she's got like a baby now, she's married, she's doing her thing, but this woman, we'll call her T.
Mhm.
T told me, she said, and I was trying hard. I took her to the park. We used to, hang out. She was a good kisser. You know what I'm saying? We got
Mhm.
to kissing and everything. And so I was trying. I was putting the game down. You feel me? And she told me, she said, I like you, but it's just you're a guy that girls look for later.
Mm.
I didn't know how to take that at the time.
You know what? And I have received that comment before.
Hmm.
When I first got to college, I was very naive. I didn't date a lot in high school. I was pretty unbothered by people for the most part before that. And I mean, it's not like I was I was not an ugly person. I know that. I'm not going to try to claim like being ugly, but I was not doing the things that like popular girls were doing.
Okay.
So I was a basketball player. So I was a tomboy, I was like a tomboy scholar. So like literally no one was bothered with me because I was not bothered. Like I was not trying to dress a certain way. I did not give
Yeah.
a shit about how I looked half the
You
time.
weren't planning 4 months ahead for homecoming dates. Right.
Literally could care less. I was a nomad in my own sense, very social and likable. Definitely would have won Miss Congeniality. But like people liked me, but that I was not being lusted after. So I didn't date a lot in high school, and then I became like a super Christian, and so all of those things. And I dated a couple boys in church. What a train wreck! Never want to do that again. And got to college, was so naive, and didn't know about like college being like this playground, right?
Can
And
you
this
can you
like,
can you give like a 2 word insert on Agnes Scott too? Like just
okay,
well because
Agnes
people
Scott.
don't know.
So I went to an all women's college, PWI, in Atlanta, Decatur, Georgia. Um, and so, of course, nobody of the opposite sex, you know, outside of security guards and staff on our campus. And so
And
I spent
isolated by
and isolate
itself.
like literally we call ourselves Hogwarts. People in the city of Decatur often don't know we exist. We are like behind a lot of ivy and magnolia trees. We're very small. It's a magical place.
It's a
I
couple
love it.
MARTA trips away from the city. We'll just put it like that.
Oh man, a MARTA trip. I thank God for a car because I would have been a social pariah. But of course, because it was a PWI and that was the biggest Black class that they had. But I knew of the AUC and I knew that I wanted to be around my people. So I studied at Agnes, and then I got the fuck out of Dodge when I was time to socialize. I was in the AUC, more specifically at Morehouse. Going there, I was like, I like it over here. These are my type of men. I want. I hung out at Clark a little bit. I hung out at Emory and Georgia Tech, but I would just have Morehouse and love. And then of course joining oh my God, the Illiterati, which is a poetry organization at Morehouse, that allowed me to become more attached to Morehouse. And of course, by being more attached to Morehouse, you're engaging with Morehouse men. I am so young and dumb, but I think I'm not, right? I end up talking to this guy. It goes horribly. It's bad. I was still a virgin. He was not, obviously, and I was not ready to do that with anyone. And, we're messing around and we're hanging out, we're making out, I'm staying nice, and it goes wrong. And then like maybe a couple of years later, maybe like the next year, not a couple of years, college not that long, feels like years.
It does. Couple semesters, we'll put it like that.
Right, a couple semesters, we run into each other and he's flirting with me again. He's talking to me and he says to me, you're the type of girl I want to marry, and I'm just not ready to settle down with anyone right now. You're too good for me, I think were his exact words. You're too good for me. And I was just like, interesting. I have come to know this now, but the hearing you say it is very great. But it is just like when you are
you were ready to receive that.
When I was talking to him at that point, I was still, I heard that.
I was not ready for that.
Oh, at that point, Sol, after he was probably one of the first boys that I talked to in college, like one of my first experience. And I'm a fast learner. It don't take me long.
Right.
You ain't got to hit me over the head multiple times. I was like, oh, so this is how we get down out here? Oh, this is the game? I will be the best at the game. Great. I'm glad we're all here. And so when you asked me if I was a great communicator, I was not, because I went straight into fuckboy season. And I did not leave it. I was like, so you're all just here for me to play with. Do not get attached. Do not ask me for anything. Like when I tell you, I think it's so interesting because ghosting was not a term back then. People are ghosting. Oh, how many men have I ghosted? And would tell them at the beginning, do not catch feelings. My attention span is very short. I'm going to make you feel like the most important person in me. And then I might drop off the face of the earth. You should know that. Like I was one of those fuckboys, the ones like, I'm going to lay out all of my toxicity for you. And then I'm going to make you fall in love with me. And then I'm going to do that. I'm going to do exactly what I said I'm going to do. And so, no, I didn't communicate, because what was there to communicate about? We were there for fun, and then we were not. Right. But then again, Kyle didn't see that one coming, let me tell you. And when he tried to get with me, I remember telling him, I was like, are you dumb? Because he was one of my closest friends. He had seen me terrorize men. So I was just like, what? Like, you've seen this person. Why would you want to attach yourself to a broken? And at that point, I did believe I was broken. Mm-hmm. I was like, I'm not a great person. I obviously am not good with relationships. I cannot partner myself to people. I had this really, really self-negative talk about like my ability to love another person, and to be it, because I wasn't an emotional person. I never done that with anyone. I had never opened up my heart.
We didn't get to dive into self-talk, but maybe I'll have you back on. We can do, because that's a big can of worms. You can't just gloss over that one. But
right,
please continue.
But I just wasn't right, and he was just like, I know who you are, and he was like unfazed, and I was just like, I mean, well, it's your funeral, buddy. And then next thing you know, my longest relationship before Kyle was 6 months. Three of those months was long distance. We've been together for 10 years, married for 2. So I mean, he knew. He was like, girl, I've seen it all. I know. And I still love you. It's wild to me. So I can communicate now, though. Right. I've always had a lot of feelings, but now I'm vulnerable with those feelings. And again, writing love poems now, what a thing to be doing for me. It's super weird.
I want to follow your story up with a story of my own. And then we are headed up towards the 90-minute mark, but I want to just, because there are some parallels and some vast differences. So with me in high school, I wasn't successful in my attempts to create love until my high school sweetheart. I'm one of those people, and this also trans I don't know trans no trans this also applies to other aspects of my life where I will miss until I hit, but when I hit, it's definitely a home run.
Yeah.
And so high school, I'm a drama, I was drama kid, so I was in like 8 plays in high school. I was the talent show dude. I would do the talent shows, and I would blow everybody. I would win. I lost one talent show in high school, but the guy juggled knives.
That's not fair.
High school, like, go to the circus, nigga. But no, shout out to him though. I mean, he won fair and square. I came in second, but so I would try and I would have fun. I had plenty of friends, and anyway, there's this one lady who really reminds me of my mom, who I started dating or whatever, and 2 weeks or so it's still very new into us dating, I meet her. And when I say her, I mean when you see her and something on the inside says, there she go. That one. I met her, and I knew she felt the same way, because we meet, we exchange, it's high school, so we meet and we exchange numbers because it could just be friendly, right? It's not, in adulthood, you don't exchange numbers sometimes as fast, but we meet, we exchange numbers same day. It was at a football game. She didn't go to my high school. That was another thing. She didn't go to my school. So I thought that was cool, but she just, just butterflies all over the place, and not a thought to my current girlfriend and stuff like that, because just it's her. That's the one right there. And she's, scientifically speaking, she's probably giving off pheromones and stuff that I'm.
You're like, it's a
the
match.
same thing, yeah. Like,
we're compatible.
So, needless to say, I leave my current one for her, and it hits. It's an immediate, chemistry for high school standards on all levels. We obviously made plenty of mistakes with each other, but for all levels in the high school realm of speaking, she hit every box. I hit every box. And she was also the ex of like my best friend in high school too. So it was a bunch of stuff that's kind of was like, maybe later, but it was like, no, it's this one right here. I don't care. And he'll get over it, like, or he won't get over. I don't care, bro. Like, so anyway, so that's just this interesting start to our thing, and we have this wonderful 2.5 year thing, and she says, that she's gonna stay in Delaware, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna go down to Atlanta, to Morehouse. So we have to split. I mean, it is what it is. Like, we could pretend, but it's not gonna work out. I know you know me. We know it's not gonna work out. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna be too much time in between, and college is gonna be hard as fuck. And she wanted to be a nurse. It was, so she's, if it's gonna be twice as hard for her, I had no idea what I wanted to do. But I get down here, and for the life of me, my entire college stay, my 4 years, friend zone, because I'm looking for her, and I'm swinging, and I'm missing. I'm swinging, and I'm missing.
And you were a lover boy, and so that just like,
Man.
and I remember you were a lover.
You remember,
boy.
right? You remember some of the stuff I wrote about, probably too.
Yeah, you were
I couldn't write about nothing but pain for my first 2 years.
Your heart was like right here, and you're like, I'm trying to give it away to someone. Somebody, please.
Look nice.
Take this away from me.
And that was really but and so I met T after, it was either like summertime, junior year before school started back up, or right after the last year that I went to Morehouse. But either way, but T told me that, you're somebody that we look for way later,
Mhm.
which I just,
Mhm.
after so many years of swinging,
Mhm.
I wasn't ready for that one. That one, it was like I was mad at her, but not really. I was kind of judging myself and masked in mad at her for saying something like
Right.
that to me. And then, one day I run into Tennessee and I smacked the ball right in the exact center with all of my strength. And we've been married for 6.
Yeah. Doctor Strange moment. Body just. Um. Um. But no, I think and God, you could have turned into a different person, right? And blessings that you kept to yourself and you stayed true to who you were, and your heart remained open. um I really struggled to come back from that first little thing. I just like couldn't. I was like, oh, I never felt so dumb other than that situation. I'd never been played before. I never had um I'd never been in a room with someone and multiple women that he was talking to and didn't know that he was talking to those women, and so it just made me very, very jaded. Um, I'm a Taurus, and so we do not, once we go there, we're like, shut it down, turn off everything. We do not lose. We do not do that. And so it took me a really long time. And I'm a lover, and I'm still getting back to, like, you see how I get so uncomfortable, like when I'm performing these love poems now, and the fact that I'm writing them is astonishing to me, because I'm just like, where are all these feelings coming from? We are not soft. Oh,
I'm
are
a
we soft? I
gangster.
guess we're soft. We are soft. Wow. We are hopeless romantic. Like, it is. And it's like, it's really taken me a long time to get comfortable with the fact that it's like, you're a lover. You've always been on a love tip. Like, when I was a Christian, I didn't care about any of that other stuff that was going on. The story of Christ for me was just astonishing. The idea of unconditional love, to be able to love someone so wholly, to extend yourself for other people in a way that didn't require them to give anything back to you. You weren't asking for anything. You just wanted to give. You wanted them to be good. You wanted to take care of them. That story for me was really impactful, and it's still, I have a tattoo. I have agape tattooed on me. It's one of my life philosophies. I would love to get there. I'm a human being though, so I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, I'm a human being sometimes, but I don't think I don't think that's an achievable thing, but it's something to reach for, into loving people in a significant way. And so for me, my goal throughout the course of my life is to be able to live a life that is so directed in love, and is so operating in the healing of other people, however that takes on. And I know that it's something I had to come to terms with, is, if I'm going to be someone who operates with their heart outside of their chest, I am going to be vulnerable. That means I'm going to experience pain more. I'm going to experience loss more. I'm going to take more hits. That is the cost of living that type of life. But the benefits are overwhelming. The good times, the people that you bring into your life. Yeah, like, the lows suck. I hate, again, I hate to feel betrayed. I hate to feel played. It's probably going to happen a lot. But if I continue to operate in this way, the blessings are going to so overwhelm all of those things that it does not matter. So I just have to continue to be brave and to continue to live my life like that. Um, so yeah, it's just, that is the person that I want to be. I want to be somebody who oozes love. You look at me, you're just like, what is that? And I've done it I've done it before. People have commented on before. I'm really trying to do it where it is always happening. Um, and in the ways that I can show up for people, but also in a sustainable way. And again, I
Yeah.
have not always been able to do that in a sustainable way, because it's not always reciprocal. So one thing I changed about myself, I give to myself first. I give my best to me first every day, and then everybody else gets the leftovers. And the leftovers aren't bad, baby. Don't hear the word leftovers and think I'm just giving you trash. Those leftovers are amazing leftovers. But what I can do in that is, I never feel bitter if someone does not reciprocate, because I gave myself the best at the beginning of the day. Everything else was just excess. So I give it freely. It does not need to come back to me. You take it and you do what you need to do with it. And that's just good enough for me. And so, yeah, that is like really it. That's really how I want to operate. I think that more people should, I think we would have a lot less strife, a lot less heartache, if we would show up, be wisely selfish with our time and our resources and our hearts, and then give to everyone else. And as I've started to move and operate in that way, I see myself doing it, and I don't feel tired of doing it. I don't get tired of loving on people. I don't get tired of having these conversations, right? Interacting with people I love. Like when you asked, I was just like,
this is
me.
This is
I want to do this
energizing.
all the time.
Yeah, like this does not deplete energy. This
Mm-hmm.
you know, and hopefully the listeners feel the same. But for me, this definitely and I needed to create this space.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to create this space. I haven't created something for myself in over 2 years. You know what I'm saying? Because again, no
Business.
time.
Yeah.
No time at all. Fulu Child is definitely time consuming, but also just a lack of motivation because, you know, like I mean, I just beat depression not too long ago. So I was down, you know what I'm saying? So I didn't want to create, but now it's different. And I really, really appreciate this space. You know, I appreciate the Most High for bringing this space through me. And I appreciate my ability to talk because I love to talk. I love it.
Yeah.
I love to
And
think.
I hope that you experience in this space is you also realize, because you're such an amazing person, all these people that are going to come and have these conversations with you, they're going to be great, right? And you're going to be recharged by it, and people are going to love it because you are the person that you are. And so people are opening up their hearts to discuss a topic that is difficult for a lot of people to talk about, right? And they're getting vulnerable, right, with you because they trust you. They're like, I know I can come here. This is a safe space. We're going to have a conversation. I think one of the most precious things you did in the email that you sent me to prep me for this, where you're like, and we might have a disagreement, but we're going to respect each other. And I was just like, I could never see that happening any other way in a conversation with us. Right. I was just like, but I love that it's here. It is good to have it there. And, it made me feel safe, but I didn't anticipate that anything that we would talk about. I know we don't agree on everything, but I know that we would only ever show up to each other with love and respect.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that everyone else that's coming your way is going to be that. And again, as long as you continue to open your heart and create a space for love will pour in.
Yeah. No, I put a lot of thought into my email templates and things, and when I was writing that part, we may disagree profoundly on something. We must remain respectful, and and there was like another sub point that I made about that thing, that there may be a bumping of ideas, but let the ideas bump. We don't have to bump. The ideas can bump.
I heard something really beautiful recently by Adrienne Marie Brown, and it said, engage tension, do not indulge drama. And I love that. Because there will be tension, and you should engage it, and you should investigate it and have inquiries, but not the drama. And I think it's going to be so important because as a woman, talking about things like love, I mean, really talking to any man, on any podcast, right? And talking about vulnerable subjects. And I mean, unfortunately for you, you are coming on the cusp of a lot of, men.
Shit's popping off.
Toxic men.
Off.
You all have access to too many podcasts, too many television shows, too many men have found out how to use social media.
I thought you were going to say that I'm coming on and coming with this podcast in a time
culturally
where shit is just happening right now.
It is wild, but also as a Black man, in the way that we have seen some Black men engage with Black women and just the Black community, and regardless, podcasts, social, through YouTube, there's a lot of hesitance. I mean, I will say, as much as I love you, in the back of my head, I was like, ooh, live. Like, and I talked to Yoazier. Yoazier is one of our good friends, right? Yoazier randomly pulled me on a live once, and I was like, oh, I was not prepped for this. And as much as I love you, this could be an issue, right? Because Yoazier is, love him.
Shout out to Yoazier, man.
Shout out to the bro. And these radical thinkers. And so it's like, you really have to learn how to engage with people who have different opinions, but you never really know how someone is going to show up and engage with you, right? And how they're going to handle you. And so, when people ask me to do stuff like this, I'm always just like, how am I going to be engaged with, right? How am I going to be handled? And so, like, even though that like was an initial thought, my brain immediately went to, do we really want to do this? Like, there's a hesitance where I was just like, and at least I feel like I know Sol, right? Even though we haven't talked in years, I was like, I think I know this person. I think this is a safe space for us. But because we have had that distance, it's so much has gone on. And also, I have watched these men with these narratives that just go wild, and they bring these Black women on to make them look dumb. And I'm just like, I don't want to do that. And so it's just like, I think that, and I say all this to say, in the longest way is when I read the email and I saw the intention behind the email and how you're trying to create a safe space for the people that you're bringing on the show, I really appreciated it.
Yeah, I'm glad. And what I was gonna say when I said, "Oh," all of a sudden is because I remembered what I was gonna say. I managed to keep it too. It was a strong suit of mine.
That's wild.
What is that when I got to that part and I was like, yeah, I need to say something along these lines. I had a couple, two women in mind that if the either trans or Roe versus Wade conversations enter the mix, we may just have ideas come this way. Mm-hmm. But I want to say in the pre-interview email that, hey, that's human, mm-hmm. right? And I want you on the show because I do respect you, and I don't want to mm-hmm. I don't want to catch you off guard and just and not said that it's my intention to remain respectful and I expect you to do the same beforehand, mm-hmm. And then beyond that, whatever, like, what I'm saying? Like,
look, we are not a monolith. We all have different opinions and ideas about how the world is going to work. If we cannot have these conversations, now, mind you, again, like, I was talking to someone recently and they were like, yeah, as soon as I said that, I realized that you were going to think less of me. And I was just like, I don't think less of you. I think that idea is dumb. And she was just like, wait, Crista. And I was like, but I love you. I was like, and I respect you profoundly. I was like, it's not you. It's the thing you just said. Yeah. I don't agree with that. It makes no sense to me, but I'm also not going to, she was expecting me to like begin to try to convert her over to my side. And I was just like, no, I'm not doing that. And she was like, well, you want me to, I just want to explain. I was like, you don't have to. I have heard these arguments. I know people who believe this and I'm okay with them believing it. That's fine. I don't need to. I don't want to convert you. That's not why I'm here.
Yeah.
You can have different opinions and I will still love you.
Yeah.
Right? As long as you're not actively trying to hurt me, that's fine. If your opinion starts to impact my life and starts to actively hurt me, now we have a problem.
Right. But anything before that you can have, if you didn't have your opinion, you would just be me. You wouldn't be here. Everybody in the world would be me, and that's boring. When I tried to convert people when I first went vegan, and it doesn't help.
I tell people even when I was a Christian, I fucking hate missionaries. Hate them. Not hate them. I do love you all. But strategy, like as people, love you. The strategy for which to get the word out, that particular strategy, trash, bro. Your life should show the fruit. people should come to you. You do not need to go to people. You do not need to convince people. When people see your life and the blessings that are being bestowed upon you, they're going to ask questions. What did you do? Why is your skin glowing? Why did you lose so much weight? How did you get those muscles? Why do you seem so happy? You used to be so depressed. What's going on? Like folks are going to inquire. We are naturally curious. We want to know what you got going on. Like, how did you do this? When people, because I am a queer, pansexual woman, Black woman, and people see me with this beautiful Black man, and they're like, well, how does that work? How did you do it? Right? People ask me all the time because they see us having a healthy relationship. That's not me being like, oh, look at me and Bay. We have a perfect relationship. Black love, hashtag Black love, all lives. We don't do that. I mean, I do adore my baby occasionally on the Instagram. You will see him. I love him. And you will see Pablo. But that's not a thing that I'm doing intentionally. I'm just showing you the person that I love. So people watch you. People always watch, and they will come. And so, like, for anything, I always tell people, like, you spend so much time trying to convince people with your mouth. Convince them with your life. Don't say nothing.
With your example, yeah.
Yep.
One of my favorite quotes by Muji. Are you familiar with Muji?
Mm-mm.
Spiritual leader in Europe, in Monte Sahaja, Portugal.
Mm-hmm.
Jamaican man though. And he says, may our lives be the very evidence of truth. And when he says truth, is truth with capital T. So you can replace truth with the word God or the word, whatever, grace.
Mm-hmm.
May our lives, meaning may our examples, may our natural reactions, not our practiced reactions, our natural reactions be the very evidence of truth.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. So I just I don't do the prophet to like, I know the word, the word I'm trying to get at. I don't do that anymore. I used to be that person. I used to get on my Facebook. Them statuses used to be real freaking long. I used to be on the Twitter.
Man,
when I'm old now.
Twitter. Boy, when I was a conspiracy theorist, I used to cuss people out on Facebook. I was like, man, that didn't age well.
I kind of remember that moment. It was great. Because I watch my babies from afar. I don't engage with your lives all the time, but I'll be looking.
Awesome shit. Yeah, no doubt.
Off my bed, because I still love y'all. So I'll be watching. I'll be like, what y'all got going on? But yeah, I don't want to have to, again, and now that I'm learning how to use my voice again, it's so precious when you're talking to people and spending time talking about stuff. I want it to be important. I want it to mean something. And I don't want to do it often. I don't want to have to, I'm not trying to convince anybody over to my lifestyle. It works for, and if I have one last point to make before we leave this, all it has to do is work for you. It just has to work for you. It doesn't have to make sense to anybody. It doesn't have to work for anybody. Like whenever I do any talks like this, I love to begin with, I am not an expert. And I didn't do that. I am not an expert. These are just my opinions. This is just how I live my life. If anything that I've said or anything that I do works for you, beautiful. But I'm not telling you to change your life to mirror mine at all. My life is because I've done deep introspection about who I am. And I have asked the world for that. This is what I need. I need you to respond in this way.
And that's why I needed you on the show. And that's why I needed you on the show. That right there. Because all we're doing is exploring expressions of love through the lens of curiosity here on the Expression of Love podcast. Crista Carter, thank you so much for coming through. You're a big blessing to everybody that you enter the circle of or who enters your circle of influence. Where can people find you is a good question that every podcast person asks. But if you don't want to be found, then what should people be doing with their lives?
Right. You can find me on my couch. No. With a good book and a cup of coffee. But you can find me on Instagram at Crista _ in Wanderland. That's with an A, not with an O. And I'm sure Sol will have it in the bio below.
Absolutely.
You can also find my book at www.cristainwanderland.com for purchase. And yeah, all my other handles are anonymous because I just be creeping.
Awesome. Get her book. Damn it.
Get my book.
You know what I'm saying?
Get my book. It's great. Okay. We'll preface it with, again, you do not read this book in public. You read it when you have a corner to catch, maybe a box of Clinics nearby. I do not recommend drinking or doing any substances while reading this book, because again, I am here to go into your heart and snatch everything up to the top. So yeah, you will cry. That is my goal as a writer. I like to make people cry. So, let me know if it does that for you. That would be great.
Put it in the comments, yo. Big hugs, Crista.
I love you. I love you
Love
so
you
much.
too.
It was so good to see your face and talk to you.
Absolutely.